Welcome to Lifestyle Management. We are now in Chapter 15, Healthy Aging. So whether you're in your teens or your 20s or older, everyone can take steps to add healthy, active, and productive years to your life. At any age and at any stage of your life, you can increase your level of fitness. It doesn't matter your age. You can do a great deal of influence to influence the impact on the passage of time that can have on you. All right? So as you age, you get better no matter what time, and that is if you're going to be taking in health steps, you get better no matter when you start. You could start at 70. After having 70 years of inactivity, you can start taking fitness and running or activities at 70 and can make improvements. So at any time. So we're going to go over material in this chapter that's going to help us with the decisions that we need to make and to see what we can do in terms of how it helps us with our aging and what we can do in terms of helping ourselves age successfully. Now that's what we're going to focus on predominantly in part 1. In part 2, we're going to review the risks and the downsides of aging and with death and dying and how we might help others who are the survivors. Okay, so in this first part, let's remember nobody gets out alive. We will all die at some point. So the decisions that we make and the choices that we make now, those are what help extend our lives and allow us to be healthier, happier as we age and as we enter into our late adult years. Live with purpose and with your mind toward the future. So let's look at some of the issues. And in particular, we're going to start with living in an aging society. I say this because we'll see this is when we look at Statistics Canada, Canada is getting older, and it's not to say that there aren't any young people. It's just to say that the boomers and the baby boomers make up the majority of a large population. You will see the population pyramid. I'll show you how I'll show you that around the population density and how that makes sense. Comparing the population with balance, it's basically a triangle, ideally. All the young people at the bottom and a small group of older people at the top. But it's been more skewed, and it's got more like a muffin. So we have a low number of small group of young people, but a larger group of older people. So let's look at living in an aging society. Now some statistics for you. According to Stats Canada, there are an estimated 6.3 million Canadians who are 65 years and older, and that was in 2018. Now that number is not going to get smaller for quite some time. It's going to continue to grow. That's only the baby boomers. That's the boomers, I'm sorry. It's not the baby boomers. By 2024, that'll be this year that we're talking about, the estimated growth for seniors is expected to be about 20.1% of the Canadian population. And that's going to continue to go up for the next maybe 10 to 15 years. Throughout our lives, you will confront issues related not only to our age, but also to an aging Canadian population. Now, some issues that you're going to be dealing with can include 3 primary considerations. First, as you get older, awareness about retirement cost, old age security, Canada or Quebec pension plan, that's the CPP or the QPP, and taxes may be of an increased on workers' overtime. Secondly, some experts say that the health costs soar. 65 and older often have additional health needs, while others contend that nations with larger elderly populations do not necessarily spend more on their national wealth on healthcare. And then third, the challenge of this that we'll see this coming up in the third issue is gray politics. I'm wearing my gray shirt to support gray politics. The big part of the population, that is the old, has a lot of money and has political power. And that's the third point. It's the gray power politics. Senior citizens go to the polls in large numbers compared to the younger population. Now, I would hope that you would try to do differently and take a role in our political arena and take a role in our society. Therefore, programs for the elderly may make up a larger share of the future of federal budget because, one, the older vote, and because, two, they shouldn't say they. I mean, I count myself among the baby boomers, but since there's a large number of seniors, and they do have savings, and they do have pensions, and they have ability to spend money on things that they care about, they can influence things like budgets and how much money is spent on health care. The power of voting. Please vote. Now let's explore successful aging. Now when I was growing up, talking about successful aging wouldn't have been a part of the dialogue. So how do we go about successfully aging? Canadians are not the only country with its citizens that are living longer, but we stay healthier and more independent longer than a lot of other countries. There are many contributing factors to this. Among the factors contributing to longer health spans is most notably an improved Medicare or medical care. Our diet is important. We eat better than we ever have. Exercise is available for everybody, and public health advances. All of these are contributing to having the older you around a lot longer. Aging is clear what it is. However, there are several ways to define aging, and we're going to consider 6 ways to define aging. First, and this is the one you're most familiar with, it's the chronological. And this is the age we say to others that we are. When they say, "How old are you?" and you say what your birth date is or your birth age. That's chronological. Now there is also a second, and that's called functional age. And this is our physical appearance, our mobility, strength, and mental capacity. It's a combination of chronological, physiological, and emotional aging. And we'll get into those 2 other ones in a minute. Then there is the physiological aging. This is the normal functioning of our bodies as it occurs as we get older. All right? We also have what's known as psychological age. So how old do you feel about how old you are? So how do you feel about being whatever age you're at? That's the psychological. My mom used to always say, frequently that she doesn't ever feel her age. She feels younger than she is, and so that was her psychological health. And then we can also look at our social age. Now, social ages are coping with the social roles that we find ourselves in. How do you feel about being a full-time employee? Perhaps in your career choice, how do you feel about the social role of being a grandparent? I suppose, as opposed to being a parent. So these roles can play a role in our age. And then lastly is the emotional age. And this factor involves our ability to appraise and remember our life events more positively as we age. So when we look back at who we are and what we've done, we see it in a more positive light than maybe we did 20 or 30 years ago. In order for us to get to this place of being able to be psychologically better aged, functionally in good age category, and being able to address the social roles and emotional factors towards fitness for life. Therefore, how and in what ways can we be fit for life? Well, the first aspect of being fit for life is to consider physical activity. And we've covered that. So we have a good foundation for that. Why is physical activity important as we age? Well, historically, even in Canada, when people age, physical fitness was one of the things that was most paramount. Growing up in the 60s and the 70s, old age was about 65 to 70, and that's how we viewed it. You were really old at 65 and 70. Today, we age much better and longer. Physically active is one reason why. Larger numbers of older Canadians are more physically healthy. It was once thought that aging meant weakness, frailty, and decline. Today, strength, proactive health promoting behaviors such as exercising contribute to a high quality of life even when beginning late in life. There are many examples of people starting to exercise when they're in their 70s, and not only starting to exercise, but beginning to run and beginning to do other exercises. There was a man from India who started running at age 75 and was still running marathons at age 100. Perhaps because they've had less health issues in the past. Starting later in life means they're starting from a healthier place, perhaps. Exercise is so effective in exercise is so effective in preserving well-being that gerontologists sometimes describe exercise as the closest thing to an anti-aging pill. So the more exercise, the more health, or the more healthy, and the more longevity we perhaps can expect. So let's look at some of the components of and benefits of physical activities. Now, some of these you're fully aware of, I'm sure, but cardiovascular fitness in aging we'll start with. As we age, one of the major changes of the cardiovascular system is the decrease of elasticity of the aorta and arteries. With increased stiffness of the aorta and the arteries, there is an increased resistance to accepting the blood volume. When the heart pumps, this leads to an increase in systolic blood pressure and a decrease in the lower diastolic pressure and an increase in the pulse pressure. This would mean your body and your heart, in particular, beat much more harder than they ought to. This increase wear and tear on the artery walls may lead to a stroke or heart attack in more extreme examples. Regular exercise can help keep older adults functioning and being more mobile. Older adults are encouraged to accumulate at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity per week to bouts of about 10 minutes or more. That's the same amount as when you're 18 through to 65. 150 minutes, that's roughly 20 minutes every day. You'll see a document from your textbook that gives some idea of the basic expectations of how to improve fitness for those 65 and older. You'll find this in your text as figure 15.3. Now, next item that's on our list of things to consider is the skeletal muscular fitness and aging. Now, as you can imagine, as we age, our skeletal muscles get both smaller and weaker. Fat tissue replaces muscle fiber, and there's often an increase in fibrosis. Now, getting in and out of chairs, going up and down stairs, lifting items can become much more difficult. The Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines for older adults suggest that muscles and bone strengthening activities use major muscle groups be done at least 2 times a week. Stronger muscles help prevent falls, and it helps to enhance balance. Balance issues can create falls, which can affect quality of life for people as they age. So there's a buildup of connections between a variety of these things that we don't have to do a whole lot to benefit ourselves, but we have to do some of those things on a consistent basis. The third area we can look at is bone health and aging. Again, this is something you've probably heard about. As we move into our middle and late years, bone and mineral loss surpasses bone and mineral growth, which results in a deterioration of some of our bone tissue. Bones become fragile, brittle, and porous, and for many adults, it can develop into osteoporosis. And women are much more vulnerable to osteoporosis than men. About 2 million Canadians suffer from osteoporosis, and 1 in 3 are women. 1 in 5 of men will suffer from osteoporosis fractures sometime in their lifetime. Therefore, the best time for preventative action is early in life. Increase your calcium intake, vitamin D consumption. Regular physical activity is always very important, especially in the first 3 decades of one's life. Starting a physical activity program at a young age helps us build peak bone mass. Physical fitness activities not only improve the strength of bones, but helps reduce the risk of falls and increase muscle strength and endurance. Really important as we get older. We find today that a lot of people, at least in my age group, have been active way back. I've been a runner since I was about 13 or 14 years of age and involved in a lot of physical activities. I pursued triathlons, 48 triathlons in my 30s and 40s, mountain bike racing in my 20s and 30s, Metcon and other sort of, running events that have obstacles in the way, obstacle events. I've done about 4 or 5 of those in my 50s. And I've done a lot of things throughout my life, and it has contributed to my feeling healthier at my age. Certainly, things can turn, and that's why it's important to do what you can early in your life. That's way to get into the habits and the routine that enables us to live longer and healthier lives. The fourth factor to fitness for life to consider is age is flexibility. As our connective tissues become stiffer, we'll lose muscle function, and decrease range of motion can lead to incorrect body alignment and tight muscles. Incorporating stretching exercises into daily life at any age can help. I'm appreciative of that, and I'm not a very flexible person, and I'm trying to engage in more flexibility exercises to offset what I have been doing. Other activities that improve flexibility can be Tai Chi, yoga, chair stretching, and a variety of other activities to promote stretching. Although this is significant, regarding our fitness for life through physical activity, it's not the limit on healthy aging. We need to consider other important variables that we need to do regularly and maybe not as healthful as we could. This is nutrition and older adults. Many elderly people who live independently do not get adequate amounts of one or more essential nutrients. Dietitians urge elderly to concentrate on eating healthy, healthful foods, and many also recommend daily nutritional supplements among particularly widows and widowed seniors. When you're living alone, you tend to, and certainly have lost a loved one, it can really affect your quality of life, and eating is one of those areas. As a result, in some cases, eating disorders are considered to be one of the most troubling problems related to bereavement, stress. Sometimes, for many people, eating disorders become the way out and not necessarily eating healthfully. As we age, does the body composition change with our age? Well, of course it does. Body weight, body fat percentages is typically increasing in adulthood. Body composition can affect how well older people function. As always, physical activity can increase and maintain lean body tissue. Okay, we've been talking about the body. What about aging and our brain? Well, scientists used to think that the aging brain, once you got past a certain age, it would begin to wear out and it couldn't be repaired. Basically, our brains are on a constant decline as we grow older. Self-repair, in fact, does occur, and more quickly in younger brains, but the process does continue into adult and older brains. Now, it's about 15 to 20 years ago, some groundbreaking research had demonstrated that brain functioning and neurons can continue to grow into our 80s and 90s. Now, that's very contradictory to what we used to believe about older brains. Mental acuity does not decline along with physical vigor. That's good to know. You can be physically unable to move around as much, but your brain can be still very active. You might wonder, how or what can I do to help my brain and to perhaps think younger? Successful agers bounce back after setbacks and have a can-do attitude about the challenges that they face. Seniors tend to be lifelong learners who take up entirely new hobbies late in life. The best advice for keeping your brain healthy as you age is use it or lose it. Learn new things. Learn a language, learn an instrument, engage in cognitive activities. Considering an important aspect of our brain's capabilities is our memory. Some memory skills inevitably seem to diminish over time. Some normal changes to expect as we age. Recalling information can take a little bit longer. It doesn't mean that you won't remember it, you just may not remember it until tomorrow. Distractions become more disruptive. Can become less able to juggle multiple thoughts and activities as we once did. Accessing names can get harder. There are strategies that we can use to help this, so we should be activating those. Learning new information is harder, but wisdom matters. So, still do well on vocabulary tests and world knowledge and judgment, generally outperforming younger individuals in that area. Would you choose to be proactive in engaging in your brain health and search for brain health activities? Be thoughtful and be a critical thinker. There's a cautionary note regarding this. By doing an online search could lead you to various somewhat misleading examples. For example, online brain games that claim neuroplasticity or neuropsychology or neuroscience as a foundation of their brain games. This research is not solid. as these games are not the focus of neuroplasticity or neuroscience. For the most part, all those games will get you is to be better at those games. They don't necessarily improve cognitive functioning. Critical think. A significant area of research in aging and is being focused on a big area: dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Now let's make sure that we are clear about how these two conditions are related to one another. Dementia is a syndrome that describes a group of disorders that include a number of symptoms such as memory loss, judgment, reasoning, and changes in mood and behavior. Alzheimer's disease is one of the many groups of disorders, and it causes about 50 to 70% of dementia cases. 20 to 30% are caused by vascular disease in Canada. And so that's an important distinction. Dementia is the overall bigger umbrella. Alzheimer is one means to gain or get to dementia as a result of Alzheimer's. Vascular disease is another way, and there are multiple paths to dementia. It's estimated that by 2031, there will be an estimated 937,000 Canadians with dementia. That's just short of 1 million souls. Alzheimer's is a progressive deterioration of brain cells and mental capacity. The illness develops gradually, beginning with ordinary mental lapses, and then once the brain loses its capacity to regulate elementary body functions, people with Alzheimer's will often die of malnutrition, dehydration, infection, or heart failure. Women are more likely to develop Alzheimer's than men. There is medication that can control difficult behavioral symptoms and enhance or at least partially restore some cognitive ability, but there is no cure. This is an area where there is a lot of attention being done in research. As we get older, we'll enter into our midlife and the associated changes that we'll see. Men don't experience a dramatic midlife hormonal change that women do. Men's primary sex hormone, testosterone, will gradually decline by 30 to 40% between the ages of 48 and 70. The major changes that occur during a woman's middle years are more evident than those of men. Women enter into a perimenopause, a period from a woman's first irregular cycle to menopause, the end of menstruation. The average time frame for perimenopause is about 5 years, but it can range from anywhere from 2 to 8 years. During this period of time, the egg cells in a woman's ovary start to die off at a faster rate. The pituitary gland churns out extra follic stimulating hormone, that's the FSH. These hormone shifts trigger an array of symptoms, and if you've ever talked to someone who's experienced menopause, then there's a complete cessation of menstrual period for 12 consecutive months. Now, this generally arrives at around age 50, 51, 52, with dwindling levels of estrogen that affects many aspects of a woman's health, from her mouth to her skin to a drop in estrogen levels also causes hot flashes as well as the shriveling of the vaginal walls. Now, women experiencing menopause may face risks of heart disease, stroke, breast cancer. Since estrogen and progestin play a major role in the above health risks for many years, hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, has been prescribed to ease the short-term symptoms of menopause. Recent research has challenged this practice. In Canada, the Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of Canada advise that a combined HRT continue to be used to treat moderate to severe menopause symptoms, but that the lowest effective dose is used for short-term use. So many postmenopausal women relieve, symptoms and have a relief from symptoms and a lower risk of future health problems by exercising and strengthening bones and eating calcium-rich foods and supplements. Makes a difference. Take control of your health and be a critical thinker. Okay, that's the end of part 1. In part 2, we'll start looking at some of the challenges facing aging, sexuality and aging, and the use of technology in issues surrounding death and dying. I hope this has been helpful. Please take, this seriously. If you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, now's the time to get yourself healthy, and as healthy as you can be as you enter into your older years. All right, everybody. We'll see you in part 2. Bye.